Hi guys, we're going to do a few examples from the solving logarithmic equations worksheet, and I'm going to start with number 2. When you have an equation where you have a log with the same base on both sides, because they have the same base, they simplify out. So really this equation will just become 10 minus 4x equals 10 minus 3x. And then we solve it like a regular equation. So I'm going to start by adding 4x to both sides, which leaves me with 10 equals 10 plus x. Then I subtract 10 from both sides, and we find out that 0 is equal to x, and then that is my final answer. Moving on to number 7, we have negative 10 plus log base 3 of n plus 3 equals negative 10. When you're solving a logarithmic equation, you want to make sure that you isolate the log so that it's by itself on one side of the equation before we can do anything else. So my first step is to add 10 to both sides. This leaves me with log base 3 of n plus 3 equals 0. Then because it's a logarithmic equation, we have to use exponential form to solve, and we want to make sure we use the same base. So since I have a log base 3, I'm going to use an exponential base of 3. So I apply an exponential base of 3 on both sides. So I make it 3 to the log base 3 of n plus 3 equals 3 to the 0. Then because my exponential base and log base are the same, this left side will simplify to n plus 3 equals 3 to the 0. 3 to the 0 is just 1, so we end up with n plus 3 equals 1. Then we subtract 3 from both sides, and n will equal negative 2. And then that is our final answer. Looking at number 11 now, again, we have a log with the same base on both sides. We have log base 12 and log base 12. So because of that, they simplify, leaving us with v squared plus 35 equals a negative 12v minus 1. Because our variable is squared, it's an indication we'll have to factor, so we want it to be equal to 0 to solve. So I'm going to add 12v, and I'm going to add 1 to both sides. That will give me v squared plus 12v plus 36 equals 0. And then we want to factor this, so I need two numbers that'll multiply to 36 and add to 12. That gives us v plus 6 times v plus 6 equals 0. So then our final answer is v equals negative 6, because each factor is the same. So setting both of them equal to 0 and solving, both will end up being negative 6. And that's our final answer. Looking at number 15 now, we're going to have to actually start applying our log properties because we only ever want to have one logarithm on either side of the equation. So again, because we're adding here, we have to simplify that to a single logarithm. So I'm going to multiply, because we're adding, the x and the 8. So this becomes log of 8 times x, or 8x, equals 2. Now, this log doesn't have a base, so it's a base 10. So I'm going to apply an exponential base on both sides. So that would become 10 to the log of 8x equals 10 squared. Then because my exponential base and my log base are the same, the left side will simplify to 8x. So I have 8x equals 10 squared is 100. I divide both sides by 8, and x equals 12 and a half. And then that's our final answer. Looking at number 20, again, we're going to have to use our log properties. I am subtracting these two logarithms. So to condense them to a single logarithm, I'm going to divide. So we end up with log base 9 of x plus 6 over x equals log base 9 of 2. Now again, we have a log with the same base on both sides of the equation, So the equation will simplify to x plus 6 over x equals 2. And then from here we solve. So my first step will be to multiply by x on both sides. So that simplifies, leaving us with x plus 6 equals 2x. And then I subtract x from both sides, and we end up with 6 equals x. And that is our final answer. Finally, we're going to end with number 24, where again we have to simplify the left side to be a single logarithm. We're using natural log, that's okay, it just means we have a base of e. This will end up being natural log of negative 3x minus 1 over 7 equals 2. Because again, I'm subtracting, so I have to simplify by dividing. Again, natural log has a base of e, so I'm going to apply an exponential base of e. So that means that the rest of the equation becomes an exponent. So we have e to the natural log of negative 3x minus 1 over 7 equals e squared. Then because my exponential base and my log base are the same, so the left side simplifies to negative 3x minus 1 all over 7 equals e squared. And I'm going to go ahead and just leave that as e squared. And then we solve. I multiply by 7 on both sides, and we end up with negative 3x minus 1, because my 7 to simplify, equals 7e squared. I'll add 1 to both sides. We get negative 3x equals 7e squared plus 1. And then divide both sides by negative 3. You can either leave it as 7e squared plus 1 all over negative 3, or you can simplify it. If you simplify it, we'll end up with a negative 17.574, and then that will end up being our final answer. All right, hopefully going over a few of those helped. If you still have questions, make sure you try to attend one of the Google Meets, and that will be great. Awesome. Thanks, guys.